This is section 2.3, solving multi-step equations. Our objective today is to write and solve multi-step equations. First, we're going to simplify before solving an equation. So we want to look at the side of the equation with the variable on it. You'll notice we have 3n plus 9 plus 4n. Well, we know how to simplify that. We find our like terms, which are 3n and 4n. Add those together, 3n plus 4n makes 7n. My plus 9 is still there. We just now have an equals 2 on the end. And now we can start to solve. Just like we did before, this is a two-step equation. I need to start by subtracting 9 off both sides. I'm left with 7n equals negative 7. And now I divide by 7, so n equals negative 1. Checking our work is a little bit more tricky now. We just have to plug in our negative 1 for both ends. So basically, anywhere we see an n, we're going to plug in negative 1. And now we start to simplify. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, plus 9, plus 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Well, negative 3 plus 9 is 6, plus negative 4. 6 plus negative 4 is 2, so it checks out, it works. Let's try this one. You're going to follow those exact same steps. Combine your like terms on the same side of the equal sign, and then solve. So what you should have done, you should have looked at the right side here, and you should have seen that 5b minus 2b makes 3b. 12 plus 6 makes 18. And my negative 15 hangs out on the other side. To start to solve, I subtract 18. I get negative 33 equals 3b. Divide both sides by 3. And I get negative 11 equals b. To check that, we will try negative 15 equals 5 times negative 11 plus 12 minus 2 times negative 11 plus 6. Oops, I ran out of space there. So I start by multiplying. I've got 5 times negative 11 is negative 55 plus 12 minus 2 times negative 11, so minus negative 22 plus 6. Remember, minus the negative is plus a positive. Let's do this all in one step here. Negative 55 plus 12 is negative 43. Negative 43 plus 22 is negative 21. Negative 21 plus 6 is indeed negative 15. So it works. All right, now we're going to try using the distributive property. We're going to write some equations together. So your class hopes to collect 1,200 returnable bottles to raise money for a class trip. During the first week, the 24 students in your class collect an average of 34 bottles each. How many more bottles per student should the class collect? Well, let's start by thinking, how many bottles has each student collected? Well, so far they've collected 34 each. How many do we want them to collect? Well, we don't know. 34 plus some mystery number, I'll call it n. That's each student. So if one student collects that much, we have 34 plus n. If 2 students collect that much, I take 34 plus n and I multiply it by 2. But now we've got 24, so I'm going to take 34 plus n. I'm going to multiply by 24. We want that whole thing to equal 1,200. So we're going to start by simplifying the left side. To simplify this, we're going to distribute 24 times 34 and 24 times n equals 1,200. 24 times 34 is 816 plus 24n equals 1,200. To start to solve, I'm going to subtract 816 off both sides. I'm left with 24n equals 384. And my last step will be to divide by 24 here. So n equals 16. And if you look up here, 16 was one of my answers. So 16 is my answer, and we won't have to check it because it was a multiple choice. So try this one. Your class goes to an amusement park. Admission is $10 for each student and $15 for chaperones. The total cost is $380. There are 12 girls in your class and 6 chaperones on the trip. How many boys are in your class? So to set up this equation, I'm going to start with the chaperones. There are 6 chaperones, and each one pays $15. So 6 times 15 is how much I pay for chaperones. Plus, I'm going to pay $10 for each student. Well, I don't know how many students there are. I'm not sure. I do know there are 12 girls. And there are some boys. That's going to equal my grand total amount is $380. We're going to start by distributing. Distribute my 10. So I have 6 times 15, which we know is 90. 10 times 12 makes 120. Plus 10 times b is 10b. I'm going to combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. 90 plus 120 is 210. Plus 10b equals 380. Now I'm going to subtract 210 off each side. So if 10b equals 170, divide by 10, and b equals 17. My final answer is that there are 17 boys on the trip. Let's check that in our heads quick. If there are 17 boys and 12 girls, there are 29 total students. There are 29 total students, and each one pays $10. That's $290. Plus the 90 from my chaperones makes $380. It works. And then there is more than one way to solve distributive property problems. So the problem 5 times the quantity 2 plus 9 plus k, 2.9 plus k, equals 8.3, can be solved using the distributive property, which is the way we've done so far. So I'm going to take my 5 and give it to my 2.9. So 5 times 2.9 is 14.5. Plus 5 times k makes 5k, equals 8.3. I'm going to subtract my 14.5 off of both sides. I'll get 5k equals negative 6.2. Divide by 5. And k equals negative 1.24. Instead of checking, we're going to do this a different way. The other way is division. So my problem was 5 times, what was my problem? 2.9 plus k. And that equals 8.3. The division way says that the left side here means 5 times this whole thing. Well, we've solved big division bar problems before, when it was a whole thing divided by a number. We can do this the same way. We're going to take the whole thing and we're going to divide that 5 away. When we do the one side, we have to do the other then. So when I divide the 5 on the left, these just cancel each other out. So I'm left with 2.9 plus k equals, and 8.3 divided by 5 is 1.66. Last step, we're just going to subtract the 2.9 off both sides. We end up with k equals negative 1.24. And look, we got the same answer both ways. Both are acceptable methods to use. So our steps to solve equations, we have 4 steps now. Our first step is distribute if necessary. Our second step, combine like terms on the same side of the equal sign. Our third step is going to be to add or subtract to start isolating our variable. And our last step will be that multiplying and dividing. All right, your assignment is page 62.